Women have to realize, and they are realizing, their extreme value. Whenever you devalue a woman, you're destroying civilization. The women have had enough of the misrule of men, because women are not the women of man. Woman is the woman of God.
Peace, peace, peace. This is your brother Isaiah Muhammad, also known as Prince of Peace 5. And we are here live on the Mind portion of the Mind and Soul podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you click that subscribe button. As you can see, I have a very, very special guest to my left, my brother, my friend, and newly acclaimed author, Brother Vernon X. Horton. How you doing, black man?
I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Praise be to Allah. Now, I don't know if they know, but you got a new book out.
Yes, sir.
And this new book is called what?
The Majesty of the Woman.
Say it one more time.
The Majesty of the Woman.
The Majesty of the Woman.
Yes, sir.
So before we get into the book, please tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. And again, thank you, brother. I appreciate you for having me on your show.
Yes, sir.
The show's ringing a lot of bells, and it's an honor for me to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Just a little bit about myself. I always start off with my children and my family because they are a huge, huge part of who I am, a huge part of any success that I've obtained thus far. So I've been married for the last 25 years. I've been with my wife since 1995. I met her in high school, so we're high school sweethearts.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As it should be.
Yes, sir. From that union between me and my wife, we have 4 girls and 2 boys. Ranging, my oldest is 20 and my youngest is, he just turned 11 yesterday.
Yes, sir.
I'm an avid writer. Part of the reason of why I am an avid writer is because I'm an avid reader. That's one of my biggest hobbies, one of my biggest pastimes. I really, really enjoy reading. One of the reasons why I wrote the book is because some years ago when I was reading, I came across a very famous quote that, many of your listeners may be familiar with. There's a good book that you'd like to read and it hasn't been written yet, then write it.
Right.
And that's kind of what led me into producing this work, The Majesty of the Woman. I play basketball. I'm really into fitness. More so than anything else, I'm very spiritual, and I'm a very God-centered and God-focused man. So.
Yes, sir. So what inspired the title of this book, and also what inspired the cover of this book as well?
Absolutely. Very, very good question. The title, and I'm just going to be very honest and very, very frank. A bigger portion of me putting this material together is, of course, my daughters. Not just that, but just me seeing how women in general are being mistreated in society. And I follow a man that is very big, speaking against the disrespect, the degradation, and the mistreatment of women, particularly black women.
Right.
His mind, I was able to, after reading much of his material and of course studying a lot of his lectures, I adapted his mentality. I fell in love with his thinking. All of those things combined, they inspired me to put together this material. I watched my daughters, each daughter, like I said, I have 4. I watched them from the time they were born. I watched them grow, and I did my best to teach them. But somewhere along the line, I knew, based on the man that I follow, and I'll unapologetically say his name, the Elder Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Absolutely.
I knew that my work extended where it went beyond my own personal family. So I wanted to teach my daughters that they were queens, and to teach them that they were powerful, and to teach them that they had a place in this world. But as I grew and matured and continued to follow my leader, I understood that my work also needed to transcend the 4 to 5 walls in my house and go outside of those doors. So I wanted to produce a genuine and sincere work that would also contribute and help towards the upliftment of all women,
Right.
particularly our women.
That's right.
I searched high and low for that title. I sat and reflected for many nights trying to find the perfect title, not just something that was catchy. I wasn't looking for something that was catchy. I wanted to look for something that really, really depicted and defined how we should view our women as a whole. So The Majesty of the Woman, majestic word, says a lot on its own. When you think about a person that's majestic, the first thing that comes to mind automatically is royalty.
Right. That's true.
That's true, right? So women are royal. Women were always royal. Women were always depicted as queens and of beings of royal stature. They were always looked to, they were always placed on a pedestal, they were always held up high, and they were always protected physically, mentally, spiritually, and intellectually.
But inside of your book, you refer to the woman as the basket of life. Can you elaborate on what you actually meant by that?
So when we look at a basket, and I use the description in the book, that a basket is used to carry and support food and supplies. And when we look at that description and when we compare it to a woman, whenever you see an expectant woman, or whenever I see an expectant woman, I look at her in awe.
Right.
You know, she's a wonder. She's an amazement. And it's a beautiful sight to see. She carries within her womb brand new life.
Right.
Life that represents the promise of tomorrow. There once was a quote that I came across that said that pregnant women are a sign that God wants the world to continue. And she carries within her womb, within her basket. I painted a picture, two people standing on a beach and looking at the moon. And one of those persons had conceptualized an idea of one day traveling to the moon. This was before we ever, before man had ever reached the moon. That idea was conceptualized by that one person. However, that idea was not realized by that one person. As we're taught in our teachings, that thought never dies.
Right.
That idea, that longing, and that desire is carried over from generation to generation.
Right.
And then eventually you'll have a woman that'll produce a young man or a young woman that'll help us to realize that dream or that goal. She'll produce that being that will have the natural, predetermined idea. It'll be encoded in their genetic makeup for them to ascertain that goal and to realize that potential idea.
Right. So inside of your book, right,
Yes,
you
sir.
mentioned, and I quote, "For so long, the woman has been portrayed as some secular and base being whose value and divinity is only found in physical appeal and attraction," right?
Yes,
I
sir.
done had some conversations with grown men that say, look, why should I respect a woman if she don't even respect herself? What would your response be to men that think and actually say statements like that? Why should I respect her if she don't respect herself? Speaking about a woman.
Wow. Yes, sir. Very good question. So, believe it or not, I actually have those debates now.
Right.
Some of my biggest critics about the book, I get a lot of accolades, I get a lot of applause about the book, but some of my biggest critics just so happen to be males. And one brother in particular, I won't use the terminology that he used.
Right.
So I'll supplant that and use the word woman.
Right.
He said, I'm not respecting no woman until I see that they respect themselves.
Wow.
Now, I want to paint a picture for you real quick.
Come on.
When you look at males, I'm going to say males for right now. When you look at males, the male was created, ordained, ordered, directed by the Creator to protect and maintain this being that we call woman.
Think about that. Think about that.
So that's actually a spiritual or divine ordinance from your Creator, which ties into our very purpose in being. It ties into our why as men. We have to protect her. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes a very profound statement. He said that there's no such thing as a no good woman. That tells me that the onus is on us as men. Now, first off, we're leaders, right?
Sure.
Men, we always crying about, I get into debates all the time with some of our brothers, right? I'm the man of my house, my wife isn't respecting me. So we're quick to claim leadership in one lane, but then we'll deny it in another lane. What do I mean by that? You're telling me that you're a leader, you are a head, you are divinely ordained to lead your house, to lead your family, and your wife shouldn't obstruct you on one hand. But then on another lane, the mentality is, okay, well, until she respects her, I'm not going to respect her. Why don't we lead in that vein?
Come on.
Why don't we take up the mantle and lead in that respect? I'll say to that, and I always try to stand clear of offending anyone. I don't want to offend anyone because this is a constructive work that we do. However, we also know in construction, there's a measure and a degree of destruction.
Right.
So sometimes we have to destroy before we build.
Up. That's
right.
That's right.
So whenever I attack, I'm not attacking people, I'm attacking a particular mentality. Let's take my daughter, right? One of my daughters. I teach, I train, I work with my daughters, we have conversations. repetitively on why she's valuable, why she should never allow anyone, male or female, particularly herself, to be disrespected. The reality of that is Daddy could die today or tomorrow. You know, we don't know when the Creator's going to call us home. So when Daddy dies, when we look at nature, eventually she'll end up in a relationship, she'll end up married, hopefully. Do I, as a father, even with all that I taught my daughters about respecting themselves, protecting themselves, and to never allow anyone to mistreat or disrespect them, if my daughters would ever deviate from that, me being a man, I expect her husband to be a leader and to continue what I started with my daughters.
Wow.
That's my expectation.
Wow, pick up the mantle.
Yeah, so pick up the mantle. And I was one of those guys that when I was 13, 14, 15, I had to go and say something. So I see couples on the corner fighting, and I hear men calling women out of their names. I say something.
Right.
And I almost got hurt quite a few times. Guys telling me, man, mind your business. But I couldn't hold it back. So when I came in contact with young Mr. Louis Farrakhan, I really took off. So if you see a woman and she's disrespecting herself, it's your role and your responsibility to do something about it. We have this perception that depending on how strong we are and how many people we can beat up and even how many people we sleep with, that's the determining factor of if we've entered into manhood.
That's right.
And that's not it. One of the biggest, in some cultures, particularly black cultures, one in particular in Nigeria, they have a rites of passage, that process that takes boys into manhood.
Right.
And a part of that rites of passage is they have to save a woman. They have to save a woman. So it's a lot of science in that. It's very profound.
After reading this book, so first off, I want to say how impressed I was from reading this book. And I've said this to you before, but I want to say it publicly. I was thoroughly impressed, right? Because I knew you for a long time, Bro Vernon. And I knew you had certain talents and things that you did, but I didn't know that you were this profound of a writer, right?
Yes, sir.
But I also learned something else about you.
Uh-oh.
I learned something else about you.
What's that?
I learned you got a few bars, Bro Vernon.
Yes, sir.
You got a few bars, Bro Vernon. You
Yes,
put
sir.
it together very well,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So I wanted to quote one of your poems that you had inside of this book, right? And I wanted you to give me a breakdown of it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd love to.
So inside of the book, you said, throughout the ages, many pages have been inked due to her greatness. To define how divine she is by wise men and sages. She gives birth, she is the earth. From her comes men of war that rages. She brings forth those that bring forth cures for disease that harm and plague us.
Yes, sir.
That's a lot. But give me a breakdown of what you meant by that.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
So, like you said, throughout the ages, many pages have been inked due to her greatness. From the days of long ago. Man adored, the king adored his queen. Men adored women. Men, when we seen women, we held her up high, man. We reverenced her, like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said. We reverenced the womb that bore us. Right. We had a very profound respect for the woman. Not to pat myself on the back, but rather I started out writing rhymes at the young age of 16 to 17. When we in the cipher and everybody standing around and everybody rapped about, be this and be that, and I did this, right? I was the one when it was my turn to spit. I was talking about uplifting the woman. I was talking about treating her like a queen. I was talking about how the mother was the queen of civilization. The black woman was the queen of civilization. At 16 years old. And this is the thing, right? And again, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I was so nice that even though the brothers wasn't really trying to hear that, they gave me my props because they was like, man, that was the way you put the words together, brother. That's dope. You can go and find books written about women, about Queen Cleopatra and some of the great noteworthy women that made significant universal changes in history. They were written by the hands of scholars. You got scholars writing on how valuable and how important and how majestic women are, trying to give a thorough and an adequate description of how valuable she is, but never really being able to attain it. You and I can talk about how valuable women are all day long. She's God's creation.
Come on.
So no matter how close we get, we'll probably never reach that God gives us that interpretation.
That's deep.
That's how valuable she is. She gives birth. She is the earth.
She is the earth.
And if I may, speaking on that, can I go to something really quick?
Man, why not?
All right, so where do we get our knowledge base from?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
Who taught Vernon? Because at one particular time, Vernon wouldn't be able to articulate what he's articulating now.
Come on, every good teacher was once a good student.
Come on, so I'm gonna tell you who taught me.
Come on now.
These teachings, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught me. In his flagship book, Message to the Black Man in America.
You know we got to keep a copy close.
Come on, man.
You know we got to keep a copy close. Come on, man.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was telling us in 1963 how valuable women, black women in particular, how valuable she is. Now, what do I mean by she gives birth, she is the earth? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, and I quote, "The woman is man's field to produce his nation. If he does not keep the enemy out of his field, he won't produce a good nation. If we love our vegetable crops, we will go out and turn up the leaves on that vegetable stalk and look carefully for worms that are eating and destroying the vegetables. We will kill that worm, right?
Right.
Again, we will go out into the cotton field and look for the enemies of our cotton and try to kill that enemy. We study poisons and chemicals of the earth, and we pour these chemicals on the enemies of our crops to keep their enemies from destroying them. We love a crop that we can produce every year, every season, so we will kill that enemy, every enemy that we find seeking to destroy it. Is not your woman more valuable than the crop of corn, that crop of cotton, that crop of cabbage, potatoes, beans, tomatoes? How much more valuable is your woman than these crops that you should keep your enemies from destroying those crops? Just like the earth produces food, vegetables, minerals, gold, silver, iron, the things that help sustain life, the things that help push life from where it is and take it into tomorrow. So all of these things of necessity and of value, of immense value, that we depend on, absolutely depend on to sustain life, the woman is much, much, much more valuable than that.
That's deep.
She produces our future.
That's real.
She produces our kings, our queens, our scientists, our physicists.
All of them have a mother.
Everyone has a mother. Jesus' mother. She was so valuable that in the scriptures it says that Mary was tucked away. She was secured and kept from being corrupted.
Teach.
And her chastity and her virtue was protected because she had to produce the Messiah.
Come on.
Right?
Come on.
And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that any woman can produce a Jesus, but in order for you to produce a Jesus, you have to think like Mary.
Come on, and say that again.
Any woman can produce a Jesus,
Come on.
but in order for you to produce a Jesus, you have to think like Mary. You have to be reared up in the same way that Mary was reared up. And you can produce giants on this earth right now, which kind of will lead me later on in our talks. I'd like to go into some of the minister's material on how to give birth to a God and how I was able to tie that into my life.
Absolutely not. You right on time, because I was just about to quote the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So we right in tune.
Come on, man.
So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan once said, right?
Yes, sir.
To make her a sex symbol is to devalue her, speaking about the woman.
Yes, sir.
To show her off before the world is to devalue her.
Yes, sir.
In this world, the man has not given or placed a proper value on the female, and thus has caused the female to devalue herself.
Yes, sir.
The behavior of our women and our girls demonstrated by the thinking of a devalued human being. So with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan saying that, right?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to bring attention to this new song that's out, right? By Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion, called WAP, or WAP. And I'm not going to say what that acronym stands for.
Let's not
right?
do
We're
that.
not even going to go into that. But the lyrics are very vulgar and very explicit, right?
Sure.
But I find myself in debates with other women that are literally defending and justifying these lyrics.
Yeah.
But would you say the fact that these women are comfortable putting out these derogatory lyrics and images is their own fault, or ultimately the fault of the man?
That's a very good question. I think that ultimately, yes, the responsibility does fall on the man. I think so. I was having a similar conversation with some of my colleagues about that. And these are professional, esteemed women. She told me that song symbolized and represented women growing into their power.
Right.
And being empowered.
I've had that conversation too.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Right? Now, but here's the thing though. I agree with that to a degree. Right? However, it's going in the negative.
Yeah, it is. Yes, sir.
So I do understand that when you oppress, repress, and suppress, and I speak on that in my book, women have been oppressed. Women have been repressed. Women have been held back in society. The fact that women were not allowed to vote is a huge indication. The fact that you take a woman that goes throughout her educational career, she attains her PhD, and then you have a male that attains the equivalent, but she's making 25 to 30% less than that man.
Right.
That's a form of oppression.
It is.
I believe it was in 2015, they were looking at the ratio between world leaders in politics versus women. You would only have 13 world leaders in politics and world government that were female compared to the balance being males.
Right.
That is a deliberate action of keeping women out of world affairs and politics. So we can honestly look at that scenario and those pictures and say women have been oppressed. They have been repressed. They have been held back. So yes, we are in a time now where women are revolting. They have what you call the Me Too movement. They have all these different movements amongst females that are now saying, hey, we have a voice, we have a place in this world equivalent to men. They've proven that they if we look at every field of endeavor, be it sports, science, medicine, wherever we look, over the course of the last century, you've seen women, in some respects, equal themselves up to men, or if not surpass. So yes, we are living in a time where women are growing into themselves and into their powers, and they are expressing themselves more freely. However, we have to look at if that expression is deviant or is conducive to where they're going. So let's look at WAP really quickly.
Right.
WAP is centered around the woman's or the female's genitalia.
Right.
I've been in numerous, I don't want to say debates, but dialogues with women, right? About how women are over-sexualized and hypersexualized, and you all only look at us for what we can contribute on a physical level, but it's so much more to us. But now, we're taking that, and then we're perpetuating it as women by saying that this is empowerment.
Double standard.
It's a double standard. So I have a huge problem with that. I completely disagree. I think that it sends the wrong message. I think that it perpetuates the notion that outside of sex, a woman has no real value in. So if we look at sex on a physical level, right, at the root of sex, the root reason or the root purpose of sex is procreation. Women have a physical womb, right? But they also have a womb within their mind.
Come on.
They also have a means of which the right man can impregnate her mind, and they can produce spiritual realities that'll never die even when they pass from this earth.
Think about that.
So if sisters, women, with that being said, if you make your physical genitalia your primary focus for a man, once he's through with that, he'll never discover the real womb that's within you, the real womb, that real valuable womb that produces and brings forth life as well.
That's you saying that brought my mind to two instances, right?
Yes, sir.
One was a literal experience that happened, and another one was more of a fictional and hypothetical, right? Now, the literal one that happened it was an experiment done. It was a young lady where she was dressed modestly. You know what I mean? She was covered up. She wasn't wearing anything that was revealing or tight. And she walked down the street. While she was walking down the street, men started to get out of her way. Oh, excuse me, I apologize. Showing her respect based off what she was wearing.
Yes, sir.
The same woman went back. She took off the modest clothes. She put on a belly shirt. She put on cut-off jeans. And she walked down the same street. The same men that were getting out of her way was starting to say, hey, sweetheart, how you doing? What's up with you? Can I get your number?
Yes, sir.
Damn, girl, you look good. Things like that. The men, they weren't focused on who the woman actually was as a person by looking at her face, because the same exact woman walked down the street and they had a different response,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Then another instant was, I heard a story.
Wow.
It was a man and a woman, right?
Yes, sir.
They linked up for the first time. They met over Facebook or something. And they met each other in a hotel parking lot, right? And they made the decision that they were going to go into the hotel to enter relations, right?
Yes, sir.
Before they went in, the man asked the woman, how much is this going to cost me? And the reason why he asked that was because the woman was dressed very provocatively. She was exposed, you know, she wasn't dressed modest at all. So the man asked, how much is it going to cost me, right? The woman looked at the man like, what you mean, how much is it going to cost you? That's sexual harassment. I'm going to get a police. There go one right there. The man asked him, how you know he's a police? I know he's a police based off of his uniform.
Yes, sir.
The brother told the sister, well, I thought you were a hoe based off of your uniform.
Wow. Yes, sir.
So a lot of times women will say things like, you know, you need to respect me for my mind. You shouldn't be worried about what I'm wearing. But as a natural man, when you wear things that show what the Quran calls your adornments,
Yes, sir.
because men are naturally attracted to that and adore that. When you wear these things, doesn't allow a natural man to be focused on anything that you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't care if you're the most holy man, you have memorized the Bible and the Holy Quran, you don't pray 5 times a day, you pray 10 times a day. I don't care how holy and righteous you are.
Come on,
When a
speak the
woman
truth,
comes
man.
that is undressed and she's not dressed properly, the attraction that you have for that woman starts to heighten.
Yes, sir.
So it's easier for a man to focus when the woman is dressed properly. Anything that's valued is covered up.
Yes, sir.
Gold, you don't see gold just laying out there on the ground. Gold, you have to go deep down to go mine out gold.
Yes, sir.
I've never seen $1 million just laying out there on the corner.
No, sir.
Money is locked up somewhere in a safe. Double lock or padded lock so can't nobody easily access.
With God's protecting
With
too.
God, you know what I
Yes,
mean?
sir.
Or pearls. Pearls, you got to go 12,000 feet deep inside of the water or the ocean. You have to go inside a clam and get the pearls out because those are valuable. How much more valuable is the woman? So if you are valuable, don't you think you should be covered up to protect yourself from predators or things or people that are coming trying to get you? So that's just one thing I thought about after hearing you answer that question, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
But
sir.
also inside of the book, you said it deeply troubles you to hear men, old and young, refer to a woman as a bitch, right? You said a little bit about that earlier, right?
Sir.
But it makes you ask the question, like you said, do these men have mothers? Which is a serious question. Because in the beginning of your book, you mentioned that everyone comes from the womb of a woman.
That's right.
So explain to us why you ask, you know, do these men have mothers? Because these men may say, well, look, she ain't my mother. She ain't my sister. Why should I respect her?
Right.
What would you say to those men that disrespect other women that are not related to them, but somehow show respect to women that are related to them?
Yes, sir. Absolutely, brother. You said some very profound things. Made me do a lot of reflection. I'm definitely gonna get to your question. But that picture that you painted about the sister wearing, on one hand she was dressed modestly and respectfully, and on the other hand she dressed inappropriately. Our great Minister Nuri, he made a very, very profound quote, one that I will take with me until I'm 1,000 years old, if Allah blesses me to reach that age. Very profound. He said, your life is your mind turned inside out.
Inside out.
Your life is your mind turned inside out. So, now you can look at that on numerous levels. Now, if I'm a male, and I'm using male for a reason, I'm not saying men, because
got you.
men,
Come on. It's a difference.
it's a big difference.
Males are born males, but not all males are men.
Men. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So if I'm a male, if I'm a male and I see a sister walking down the street, she has her boobs exposed, right, her buttocks, she has her adornments, right, pretty much just like a mannequin in a store, they're on display.
Right.
Right? And if your life is your mind turned inside out, And if I'm a male and I'm watching that, it tells me how I can approach you, how I can perceive you,
Right.
the level of respect. And I know that argument is debatable.
Right.
That argument will go back to women will say, I deserve respect no matter how I dress.
True.
However,
However.
as you painted, there was a difference in how that female was approached based on how she clothed herself, right?
Yes, sir.
So we'll get into that. I just wanted to share that, but to get into your but to answer your question, and this goes back, it always goes back to the beginning. At a very young age, I knew that women were valuable. I knew that women deserved to be respected and protected. I was that guy in elementary and middle and high school. I was that guy that people referred to me as, oh, he the one that don't hit girls. You see, my buddies, they hit girls, they slap them, and they get mad, they fight women like they were guys.
Right.
You would have to hit me with a card and roll over me 3 times in order for me to hit a female.
Right.
I couldn't do it.
Right.
And there's many that can attest to this. I was the one that I had a cousin, he had a sister, and him and his sister would get in the fights all the time, and he would hit his sister because she was my cousin. Him and I fought because he hit his sister.
Right.
So his sisters gravitated more towards me because it's in the woman's nature
Come on.
to gravitate towards her protection.
That's right.
When I hear that, I cringe. When I hear men so comfortably refer to a woman, man, that bitch. I cringe. Because, again, the minister said, quoting from the Holy Quran, the Quran says, we ought to reverence the womb that bore us.
That's right.
Now, the Quran wasn't just referring to your personal mother. The womb is the womb of life. The minister said that the woman was a co-creator with God.
Come on.
Which gives us some indication of her value.
Come on.
So if she's a co-creator with God, and he also said that the woman is God's laboratory, and
Right.
he produces his sages, his prophets, his messengers, his servants to do his will and his bidding on earth. So if she's that valuable to God, and then not only that, but she carries that new life in her womb, right? When that woman carries that new life for 9 months, denying herself, sacrificing herself, dealing with the discomforts. And then the minister also said that when she goes into labor and gives birth, the pain of birth is equivalent to the pain of death. So when we take all of these things that we know about the female, about the woman, how valuable and how immensely important and significant she is to the very Creator himself, how could we refer to her as a bitch?
Come on, man. Once you understand
Once
how important she is.
Exactly.
Right.
So now to bring it down to, because everyone may not necessarily be privy to that knowledge.
Right.
So the common person, he has a mother, he has a sister. He knows that his mother gave birth to him. He understands that she reared him from a baby and suckled him from her breast. So he understands the value of that breast. He understands the value of the womb that he had to come through the portal in order for him to experience, this marvelous creation, this life that some lives never made it beyond that point. But his mother, that womb, provided him that opportunity through his mother. So him taking all that into consideration, how could you fix your lips to call another female a bitch? I see men that have young daughters.
Talk about that.
So, if you're calling her a bitch, where does your daughter stand? And do we get that emotional that the emotions control us so much that we deny logic and we don't give her the due respect that she's justly due? So that causes me to cringe.
Right.
And the reason why in the book I use young and old, well, because traditionally and culturally the old passes down that great ancient wisdom to the young.
Right.
The old implements those rites of passages that the young have to go through in order for them to ascertain man, to become a man.
Right.
And to cross over that line and enter into manhood. The old watches over the young. The old schools the young The old tells the young, hold up, little brother. We'd kill you for disrespecting her.
Should say that.
Right. And you don't allow nobody else to disrespect her.
That's right.
And that mentality permeates the environment, and it becomes the general thinking of that community and that environment. So, but when you look at it right now, very sad to say, the young and the old, you can't necessarily, the only difference is you can tell an appearance.
Right.
Same talk.
Yeah.
Same as we say swagger, right? And not only that though, but I'll end it with this. The old is following the young.
That's real.
So the Bible asks if the blind lead the blind, they both fall. They both fall in the ditch. So right now we're landing, the ditch that we're landing is steeped in ignorance. And the minister said that, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that, which is a very profound statement. He said that the reason that the world is in the condition at the root,
Yes, sir.
is in the condition that it's in right now is because of how the world treats, disrespects, and oppresses the woman.
That's a fact. Also, you mentioned inside of your book, there are many societies and governments in different parts of the world that hold the female in such great importance.
Yes, sir.
That she is kept from hearing, seeing, or interacting with anything or anyone perceived as perverse or a danger to her virtue. I understand that, right? Other societies and governments, they don't treat the women how we treat the women, right?
Yes, sir.
Why do you think these different governments, societies, and cultures treat the women like they do, and why we treat our women like we do in our society and culture? What do you think the main difference is?
The biggest difference? The offspring that they produce. The offspring that they produce. Which ties into some of the quotes, if I may.
Go ahead.
In the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan lecture about how to give birth to a God, he said this about the woman. I'm actually, it's a few quotes. One is that he said the woman has the ability to impress and write on the brains of the fetus while it is still forming. Right? The minister also said that the woman's mind is the laboratory that produces a new world. And he also said the brain of the child is fashioned by the thoughts, desire, and blood of its mother. Now, if you tie this in,
that's deep.
Very profound.
Yeah,
It's a lot to unpack.
Yes, it is.
Right? And if you look at these societies, if you look at how beautiful Mecca is, and how peaceful it is, right? And then that description in Revelation, when it talks about this new world that God is going to bring into existence, one of the key words is peace. Right? Now, we all understand that in order for a world to come, a world and an economy and a system, it don't just drop down out of the sky.
Right.
It's built from the ground up. Who builds it? The hands of men and the hands of women, right? What governs those hands is the mind of that human being. That's right. The mind of that human being. Now, the woman has a direct impact. Her mind, from the moment she starts to conceive of that new life in her womb, her mind, her heart, her spirituality, it all has to be in a particular place and aligned with the Creator in order for her to produce that life. And that life will come forth and utilize this body and the members of this body to shape and form that environment of peace that we all crave for. That's how that ties into, and I think that these other places, these governments and these other societies, them witnessing that, they understand the value of making sure that the female is protected on all levels. And then we see it cyclical in nature. We see it continuously happening over and over. And the minister said we eventually get into what's called triple darkness,
Triple darkness, like it says in the Quran. Absolutely. I remember also in that lecture where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan would warn the women to be careful about what they watch while pregnant. Because whatever you watch, not only, a lot of times women say, I'm eating for two, right? And a lot of times they'll use that as an excuse just to eat more, saying I'm eating for two, right? Right, just get it in, right? But not only are you eating for two physically, but you're also eating for two spiritually and mentally as well. So what are you feeding your mind? What are you watching that you are putting on yourself that will eventually go to that child? So those are very profound statements by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Well, if I may, really quick, right? I'd like to go to some scientists that backs up in this regard what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is saying. So there was a study that was conducted in 2011. The name of the doctor that I'm quoting, his name is Dr. Kurt Sandman. He said, as a fetus grows, it's constantly getting messages from its mother. It's not just hearing her heartbeat and whatever music she might play next to her belly. It also gets chemical signals through the placenta. So the fetus can be communicated with on purpose. And the mother has the direct connect or the direct line to that fetus. So when she wants to communicate, when she wants to shape, form, or as one scientist says, evil and good can be predetermined through pregnancy.
Right.
If she wants to communicate those things and shape that new life into what she wills, she can do that based on how she conducts herself throughout the course of her pregnancy. And lastly, this same doctor, Dr. Kurt Sandman, said that we believe that the human fetus is an active participant in its own development and is collecting information for life after birth. It is preparing for life based on messages that the mom is providing. So not only can mom send signals to and communicate with the fetus is also sending and receiving signals and communicating and looking forward to information to come from the mother.
Right.
So it's conscious right there inside the womb.
Right.
And we think that, this new life can't necessarily operate on that level until it's 5 or 6 years old. No, it's doing it while it's inside the womb of its mother.
So I know a lot of times, to go off that point, that's why growing up, right, I would always hear not only just my mother and my father, but other adults that I looked up to. They said when speaking to 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds, they wouldn't speak to them in baby language.
Yes, sir.
Goo goo gaga or conquer. No, they used to speak to them in full sentences.
Yes.
Because a lot of times we place these limits on these children thinking they don't understand what we're saying. Oh, I got to bring it down to that level. No, because now today, these children are different. My daughter is 3 years old, right? My daughter has an iPad that she knows how to enter the password. She knows how to swipe. She knows how to go to YouTube. She knows how to pull what a video she wants, skips ad, and do all of that, right? Now, my 1-year-old son is coming right behind her. Now, he touching it, he flipping, he swiping, he going back and forth, right? Because these children are more technologically advanced than I was and than how you were.
Yes, sir.
So if we see that's how they do when they're 1 and when they're 3 with the technology, that's predetermined inside of the woman's womb.
Yes, sir.
So what you do, when you talking to the woman while she's pregnant, you got to be slow to anger.
Right.
Because we know how women can get. You just said you have 6 children.
6.
I got 2 and I got 1 on the way. And we know how emotional women can get while they're pregnant. But I've been taught just walk away. And I still struggle with that, honestly, just to be transparent. I still struggle with that, but it's best just to walk away. Yes. Because the argument that you all have is not just affecting you all, it's affecting the child as well. This is a question a lot of times people don't want to touch on, right? We're going to touch on it today. Inside of the book, you used a quote, an oft-repeated quote, that one man's trash is another man's treasure. Then you touched on this topic. You said some men, through their actions, lead women to believe after years in a relationship, she can no longer please or provide the desire and attraction that she once did. Truthfully, that's not the case. I believe in some cases that men do not know what they want, more importantly need, and most certainly don't know what they have. The question is that I wanted to ask, so what do you think is the main reason or reasons men step out of their relationship or their marriage to pursue other women?
Absolutely. Woo!
Hey, you wrote it.
Yes, sir.
You wrote it.
Bro, that means you were deep diving in the
Hey,
book, bro.
hey, I told you I don't play with it. I told you.
Yes, sir.
I told you.
So the first part, one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? Just to clear something up really quick. We all know that, of course, no woman right, is trash.
It's trash, right?
I'm using that quote in the sense that that's the perception that some of our men have, and that's actually the way some of our women are treated after they've been used up.
Right.
So you go to the store and get you whatever you got, and you use it up, you get all of the satisfaction of what you bought it for, and whatever's left, you discard
That's
it.
true. Got you.
And when you discard something,
Gotcha.
you're saying that has no more value.
No more value. Come on.
That's how our women are treated. Now, how is along those lines of what I just painted? How is one man's trash another woman's treasure? Again, the woman was never really trash. She's always treasure. The perception of her being trash is coming from the ignorant spouse that she just was in a relationship with. However, the true beauty, the true majesty that a woman has locked up inside of her, and the minister spoke on how our women have been so mistreated and so hurt that it has to take God to intervene in order for a man to get that back out of her. Because once you've hurt a woman to a certain extent, she can't give it freely anymore. It's just like her virginity.
Right.
She can't give her virginity. The minister said that a woman can become a virgin all over again once she's submitted to the will of God. Right? So it takes a man, I'm using the word man now and not male.
I got you.
It takes a man. And how do you know a man is a man? The minister said a man can't be a man if he doesn't have God in his life. He can't be a man.
That's it. That's the only way.
Right?
Not a man at all.
So it takes a real man to get engaged in an interaction with that woman, irregardless of where she is at that particular time in her mind, because most cases if a woman comes out of an experience like that, the man treated her bad, used her, discarded her, that has a devastating effect on her that influences her perception of herself. Maybe I am trash, maybe I'm not good. So that real man that comes along, he has to have God in him in order for him to be able to be patient with her, in order for him to be able to tolerate and put up with those barriers that she have erected from her past experience. And by him being a man of God, he can actually assist her with reconnecting her with that reconnection with God, because that's where she gets her true sense of self-worth and how valuable she is.
Right.
It comes from the Creator. So that real man, he connects her back to God. He treats her, irregardless of what she's been through in her state of mind at a particular time, he treats her like the queen that she is. And over the course of time, of her being in that kind of environment and being treated in that particular fashion, and then her and that man having a union, having a connection with their Creator, praying together, building together, she'll eventually overcome that past relationship and the past mindset and the traumas that she experienced, right? But now she's growing and seeing that treasure that was really bottled up inside of her, that she denied because of what she's been through in the past. So it takes a real man for her to unearth that, to help her to unearth and uncover that. Again, it goes back to God. I would give this advice to women. If I were you, I wouldn't deal with a man that was not seeking to serve and to root himself firmly in God and his Creator. All right, so we have as Muslims restrictive laws.
Right.
We have a structure that we operate within.
Right.
I was listening to our great brother Demetric Muhammad speak on freedom and license, and how license, the root word of license was licentious. And licentious basically meant sin or the doing of wrong. So when you have a license to do wrong. But freedom allows you freedom of expression, but true freedom does not allow you to venture into what's wrong and to go against your nature.
That's deep.
Yes, sir.
That's deep.
So when you have a man that's firmly rooted in God or striving to be rooted in God, he acts within a certain confine, a certain structure based on his nature. Now, what's his nature? A man's nature, if we look in Genesis, when God created Adam, he gave Adam one helpmate. Right. Eve. He didn't say Eve and then Cindy and then Jessica. You know what I mean?
Go ahead.
It was one helpmate,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Now this woman Very profound. And a brother once told me before, he said, I listen to what people say, but I'm also listening to what they're not saying. So God said this, it's not good that this man should be alone.
Right.
It's not good. There's a relationship that union has to reflect. And God is at the root of that relationship. I'll close it out by saying this. I think that men, for the most part, step out of their relationship because they don't know what they have in their woman.
Wow. Right.
And what do I mean by that? I'm gonna go back to using the word males now. Most males don't know what they have in a woman. We don't know her. The minister said that we don't really know her because she's not man's woman, she's God's woman. So if you don't know what you have, you oftentimes tend to mistreat it, right? So what do I mean by that? What we think we know when we look at that female. I coined this phrase, right? I said that if God is an artist, the woman is his masterpiece. That's my phrase.
Don't take that. You said it's my phrase.
That's my phrase, man. So when the originator was shaping and molding her, he shaped and molded her in a way where it would attract and it would incite the masculine nature in males. The sad part is that's where we stopped at. So most males, when we see that physical, we get wrapped up into it. We pursue her, right? If she gives us the time of day, we spend some time with her. Eventually, we end up sleeping with her. We end up having a sexual relationship. And after we've gone maybe about 2 to 3 months after that, in our minds, because that's the end all and be all, that's our perception of what a woman is, we don't know what else to do with her.
Right.
So, okay, so I'm satisfied with her physically. Can't do nothing else with her.
Then what?
I see something else.
Right.
So now I'm on to the next one. When we look at the woman, the minister said, when you look at a man, he only has one eye, he's handicapped.
Right.
If he only has one leg, he's handicapped. If he only has one arm. So basically he was talking about a man being deformed because he only has one of the two things that he was meant to have. He said if you look at a man and he's without a woman, he's handicapped. So the reason why we're handicapped is because we don't understand what we have. And we don't know how to identify certain things in a relationship and in an interaction with a woman when we're going through them. So since we don't understand them, we forsake them.
Right.
Give you a quick example. So let's say I'm in a relationship with a woman, right? We just met. The relationship is on 1,000. I'm loving her. I'm digging her. She's attractive. We're going out. We're spending time with each other. We have a sexual relationship, right? So at a certain point, the minister said that the woman, after you've built up, a certain amount of time and, and getting to know each other a little bit, she starts to put demands on you.
That's right.
Right? She starts to voice her opinion about certain things. The woman, when she's in a relationship with her man, she does something that we don't do. She studies us. She watches us while we're asleep. She studies our movements. She knows what we like.
Right.
Oftentimes, if she says, "Sweetheart, what do I like? What kind of food?" Ice. But she can tell us everything about ourselves. It's like, how do you know this?
How you know this? That's right.
She studies us.
That's right.
We don't study her.
Come on.
So in her studying us, she can also tell us what our weaknesses are.
That's right.
So she evolves from that phase of, we're dating, we're in a relationship, we're having sex. She evolves from that because she's not a physical being.
Right.
She has a physical side, a physical aspect, a physical nature, but she evolves beyond that. She goes from here to here. She starts becoming your mirror. Well, you could do this a lot better. And if you did this, we could go from right here to right here and then come in. So she studies you, she's found your weaknesses, and she see the imperfections in the relationship. It's her nature, and she brings them to your attention. Now, if you aren't in your right state of mind as a man, if you offbeat, and if you don't understand that particular side of her and what's in her nature, when those things finally manifest themselves, we mishandle them.
Right.
Are you tripping? You complaining just like we can't handle it. We don't know how to identify it. But a man that's rooted in God, that's studying nature, that has grown beyond, I'm physically attracted to women. but it's much, much more to her. So now I'm trying to grow into understanding the esoteric, hidden things about her that makes her who God created her to be, and why is she qualified to be my helpmate. So what's in her, which you spoke about earlier, about things that are valuable, how the gold is in the earth and we got to mine it out. That's when we got to become a mine.
Come on.
We got to pull out the drill now.
Come on.
Let me dig deep inside this being to find out what's buried in her that I could use, not in a selfish way just for me, but for both of us.
Come on.
And then for our family and our children. So I think that's why I think that because of misunderstanding her, and we don't really know what she offers and what's wrapped up inside of her, because we get so caught up on the physical and it stops there. When those unseen things, like the minister teach us, the unseen is greater than the seen. So when those unseen things come up to the surface and we're not able to identify them, we feel we don't understand, we run. You can see.
That's right.
All right, you gotta go now.
Yeah. So, Brother Vernon, I want to thank you for, sharing your time and coming on the Mind and Soul podcast to, drop some jewels and give us a different outlook and value of the woman, and also speaking about your book as well. But I see you also got some merchandise here as well.
Yes, sir.
So could you get into that?
Absolutely. So, well, first I'm gonna apologize because I didn't bring anywhere near as much merchandise as I have. But I also have a clothing line called the Crown for a Queen.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Say it again.
A Crown for a Queen.
Okay. Where can the people find it at?
My
Crown for a Queen.
You can find it. This particular merchandise is on my webpage. It's www.acrownforaqueen.com.
We'll put it in the description as well. I'm gonna put it right here. Say it one more time. Right here.
A Crown for a Queen.
Crown for a Queen.
Yep. And,
Crown for a Queen. Yes, sir.
We also have champion windbreakers with the Crown for a Queen logo on the top left-hand side over the heart.
Different colors as well,
Different
right?
colors, yes, sir.
So we're gonna give a closer look to the logo right there, Crown for a Queen. So you got, what else you have? You have hats.
Visors, hats.
You got visors.
I even got the socks.
Say the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, said, heaven lies at the what?
Foot of woman.
The foot of woman.
Yep.
Okay, so we got the socks as well. A crown for a queen. So, Brother Vernon, I really want to thank you for taking your time out to join us on the Mind and Soul podcast. But I got to say one thing before we leave.
Absolutely.
You my brother, right? And
Yes,
we,
sir.
anytime we have a disagreement with our brothers, we want to bring it to them. And I want to bring it to you publicly, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm mad at you, brother.
What I do,
I'm mad
man?
at you.
What I do, brother?
This is my actual copy of this book. I bought it about a few months ago, right?
Yes, sir.
I actually was one of the first ones to buy it. I bought it off of Amazon, right?
Yes,
One of
sir.
the first ones to buy it, right? And I had it for a few months, but I still haven't had it autographed. So I'm mad at my brother. So I'm gonna pull him up right here on the Mind and Soul podcast to see if I can get. Can you do me the honor?
Yes, sir.
I
brother.
appreciate you. Oh, you got the pins as
I got.
well?
Oh yeah, I got
Oh
the pen.
man. Come on now. Nah, I really
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
you, but now I need this autograph. Okay, I'm official now.
Yes, sir.
I'm good now. Okay, all right.
sir.
So okay, I'm good. Also, Brother Vernon, what I want to do is, a lot of times on Mind and Soul podcast, we like to give out, do giveaways, and that's usually what we do on the sneaker side. But on this side, I wanted to grab a few of your books to donate to a few sisters that I was bragging about your book, Brother Vernon. I really was. I was bragging about your book, so I wanted to get a few copies. Is there anything you want to say? Any final words that you want to say to our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to kind of close it out. Again, thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it tremendously. And our words are inadequate. I can't find the words, so thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Just really quick. The imagery and the words that I use on my clothing, right? It's done like that specifically because I want to make sure that when our queens wear this,
Right.
it puts them in a particular mind state where it uplifts them and it gives them a standard to walk at and live up to.
Right.
So that's why it's a crown for a queen. So sisters, when you wear this crown, walk like a queen, talk like a queen, and even if you don't have this apparel on, even if you have on a shirt that has no logo or no words on it, you're still a queen.
That's right.
Because your crown is not really worn on top of your head. Your crown is inside your head, and it's seen through the display of your actions. So Thank you all for viewing this podcast, and thank you for taking time to listen to these words. And I appreciate it, and thank you as well.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's it right there.
Yes,
so
sir.
make sure you get your copy. We'll put his information right there in the description. Of course, you can also go on Amazon and type in Vernon Horton as well.
Yes, sir.
Right, and get it delivered right to your house. Make sure you check out his merchandise and be on the lookout for any upcoming things that he has, whether it be events, merchandise, or another book. 'Cause we waiting for part 2, right?
I'm waiting on part 2 right now.
Part 2, wait for
Book
part 2,
yes,
book
sir.
2 right now. So that's it for the mind portion of the Mind and Soul podcast. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you click that subscribe button. Until next time, peace.